You've got raw sewage for about 3 to 5 miles.
Imperial Beach Mayor Serge Dedina looks at the river flowing through this U.S. valley.
This should be dry. That was dry weather. This should be dry. There should be a pump station on.
The water in the Tijuana River Valley comes from Mexico, and it's on its way to the ocean. On this day, 27 million gallons of sewage-tainted water, which also carries a slurry of toxic chemicals, runs untreated into the United States.
The smells for residents of South San Diego have been off the charts.
Some days, the flows hit 50 million gallons, and this has been happening daily since November. Dedina says some weeks that means 350 million gallons of dirty and dangerous water cross the border.
We've been literally freaking out about the astronomical increase in sewage and then the absolute absence of any communication from authorities in Mexico and then the International Boundary and Water Commission or even the EPA.
Dedina says it's clear that Mexico's overtaxed sewage system is collapsing. Pump stations and collectors are offline for repairs, and Dedina says there is concern the cross-border flows may persist for months. KPBS reached out several times to the International Boundary and Water Commission seeking information, but the agency has not answered questions. The ongoing environmental disaster got a slice of attention from County Supervisor Greg Cox during his State of the County address a couple of weeks ago.
Because of topography and a failure to maintain infrastructure in Mexico, Imperial Beach has been subjected to torrents of sewage since the 1930s. The Tijuana River and tributary canyons are the major source of untreated sewage, trash, sediment, and hazardous toxins.
But Cox sounded an optimistic tone, and he's confident this is the time to fix the problem.
We're closer than ever to solving this problem, and I will fight tooth and nail over the coming year to make that happen.
Cox and other local leaders are pinning their hopes for a long-term solution on a $425 million diversion and treatment facility on the U.S. side of the border. A berm would capture the polluted cross-border flows, and an expanded treatment plant would clean it up.
And so we think that there is an ample opportunity for us to make substantial investments on the U.S. side of the border that get results.
David Gibson is in charge of the state agency that monitors water pollution in San Diego. He says both the federal government and the state are making money available to fix the problem, but that money can only be spent on projects in the U.S., which Gibson backs.
Those solutions work. Investments in Tijuana are often inadequate in the first place, poorly maintained, and there's no capital improvement budget to expand or improve upon them as they age out. So we're looking at this from the perspective of putting good money after good money in the U.S. as opposed to making long-term investments in Mexico that don't pay off.
But the fate of that project rests in the hands of the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA controls the $300 million in the United States, Mexico, and Canada trade agreement, but they have publicly expressed willingness to back the capture and treat option. Gibson says the forces have aligned much like they did in the 1990s when the International Wastewater Treatment Plant was built.
Many of us forget that we used to have about 15 million gallons per day of raw sewage every single day of the year in the Tijuana River. The construction of that treatment plant and the canyon collectors changed that. We still have a pollution problem, but we don't have the same pollution problem. We're at the same moment now in 2020 that we were in 1990 rather. And investing in the U.S. side solutions work, they get results.
The legal fight to compel the U.S. government to clean up the pollution has been on hold since late last year. The groups agreed to stand down while efforts to find money for a U.S. solution moved ahead. That makes the situation even more frustrating for Imperial Beach Mayor Serge Dedina. He's concerned about the health of the people living in his small beach town.
It was great that we were kind of moving forward, but at the same time, we got hammered by a tsunami of sewage, and the federal government, the minute we stayed the lawsuit, stopped communicating with us, which was unacceptable.
And what happens to the ocean here in Imperial Beach is also important to this community's economy. Erik Anderson, KPBS News.